ये तो नहीं हो पाया इसका। Leave it.
Hello and welcome to our webinar titled Stay Ahead of the Curve, Discover Key Insights on Solar Power. I'm Himanshu and I'm thrilled to be your moderator for today's session. Did you know that solar energy is the most abundant energy source on Earth? It refers to light sun that is harnessed to generate electricity. While we scale up technologies across the globe to capture and convert solar energy, the Earth already receives it in space. As we discuss solar power, it is important to note that sustainability is not just a buzzword in today's world. It has become a necessity for individuals and businesses alike. Harnessing the power of the sun is a crucial step towards achieving a sustainable future. And we are excited to have a panel of experts who will share their insights on this topic. Solar power is rapidly growing industry and it is important to stay informed about the latest trends and technologies. And here are some quick fun facts for you. The global solar energy market is expected to reach roughly 223 billion by 2026, growing at a CAGR of 20%. Alone in United States, solar power is the fastest growing source of renewable energy, with a 22% increase in installed capacity in the past 2-3 years. To the past decade. In this webinar, we will be discussing how solar power is changing the energy landscape and how can help us stay ahead of the curve. Our experts will be sharing their insights on key topics such as solar panel technology, energy storage solutions, and government policies that are driving the adoption of the solar power. In this webinar, we'll be including innovative solutions that are enabling the seamless integration of renewable energy and share their expertise on the latest technologies and innovations. So let's get started.
Hello, everyone. I think we have lost Himanshu for a while because of the technical glitch. So, this is Achal. I am handling power domain and the TechSci research, and I am sharing some few insights about solar power and globally as well as like for India. Solar power is basically the power from sun. Just a second. So basically, solar power is the power produced by the conversion of sunlight into electrical energy, either through photovoltaic panels or through CSP. Basically, there are two types of solar panels, that is CSP or PV. So, so photovoltaic cells convert sunlight directly into electricity, and CSP, that is concentrating solar power, use mirrors to reflect and concentrate sunlight onto receivers that collect solar energy and convert it to heat. So basically, if we talk about global scenario, that is global renewable energy outlook, if we see that till 2022, around 4,214 terawatt hours of renewable energy generation was totally happened. And out of that, around 50% was wind, and 26% was solar, and remaining is others, that is biomass, hydro, tidal, etc. So, Himanshu, next slide, please. If we talk about India, currently India solar renewable energy generation was around 184.9 terawatt hours, and out of that, around 45% is generated through solar. And prior to 2020, wind was the major generating source of renewables in India, but later on, around 2021, 2022, solar surpassed the wind. If we talk about global solar power outlook, around 1000 or 34.1 gigawatt was the solar capacity globally till 2022. If we talk about India solar power capacity, around 62.8 gigawatt was the capacity of solar till 2022. Major corporates, if we say in the manufacturing of solar panel in India, is Vikram Solar, Warsi Energies, Tata Power Solar, Excel Energy, JA Solar, Renew System India Limited, Lanco Solar. If we talk about the major drivers, what are the driving factors which drives the solar power in India are basically the government commitments that India is total projected carbon emissions. They have to reduce by 1 million tons by 2030, and they reduce the carbon intensity of the national economy by less than 45%. And around 2070, the Indian target is to reduce the emissions by zero. So that's why the Indian market is growing, the renewables are growing. Apart from this, we have hybrid wind policy, wind solar policy, which is initiating in India. That's why the demand for solar is increasing. Thirdly, the proposed solar cities and parks, which is government is also pushing the market towards floating PV projects. That's why the demand is increasing. Heads up to I think Bhavin, you are the next. You can play your presentation and you can take the lead. Thank you. Bhavin, now it's to you.
Thank you, Anchal. First of all, thank you to TechSci Research to take the all experts of the renewable and solar on a common platform to share the different views regarding the current scenario as well as the future of the solar and other renewables. Let me share one of the thought that solar is just not an energy or the power, but in actual solar is the power of freedom. If we consider the demand and supply of the electricity at the global level, then we can see the all over the globe, almost Asia Pacific, how the higher consumption of the electricity, and also at globally, uh, all countries are consuming more and more electricity day by day. So at world level, the generation as well as the consumption of electricity then at the end user is day by day increasing. So again, the market of electricity generation as well as the usage application are also growing compared to other source of energy. So electricity has the vital role according to the world energy. And if we consider the Asia Pacific, then China and India, this both country combines major electricity consumption. If you consider the emissions with supply at the world level, then total renewables has the compound annual average growth rate is almost 9 percentage. And if you consider specifically Asia Pacific with respect to the world data, then we can consider here the total renewable compound average growth rate is almost 11.6 percentage for the Asia Pacific only, which is 2 percentage higher than the world data. So day by day, specifically the Asia Pacific region, they are generating as well as utilizing the renewable and solar technology more and more. And due to this, the growth rate of the solar PV as well as another renewable sources are much more growth rate as compared to the other countries of the world. Now see the renewable depends fossil fuel fired generation from almost 2023 to 25 scenario. If you look out this detailed data on this graph, uh, coal, gas, nuclear, and renewable component from 2019 to 25 year scenario, then you can observe that the component of renewable as per the generation purpose has much more growth as compared to the other coal, gas, and nuclear. Even during the year, the day by day, the usage of the fossil fuel are reduced, and the day by day from starting from 19 to predicted 25, the of the electricity from the renewable sources are day by day growingly, and consequently the generation from the fossil fuel are reduced. Especially we talk about the uh, Indian electricity generation scenario, then before almost 10 years, before 2012, the generation from the solar were very less as compared to the coal. And before that time, the coal has almost 65 percentage component of electricity generation, especially for the India. But since 2019, the electricity generation from the renewable sources are day by day much more growing. Even uh, in this 2023 year, the generation from the renewable source is much higher in the uh, and it is predicted for next year, that means in 24 they will be somewhat reduced, but again projected in 25 will be again it will be higher. So will India's renewable energy deployment will boom in 23 and 24? So that also depends on the higher prices, then lower auction volumes, and the trade policies that weigh on the short-term PV deployment. If you observed from these two graphs that shows the details from 2018 to 24, the most generation of the electricity has the most component from the solar PV alone. That may from PV utility, PV residency, PV commercial, or PV upgrade. But the solar PV has the major component in the electricity generation as compared to other renewable sources like wind, hydropower, biomass, and other sources. So we can say that day by day, uh, the electricity generation from the solar PV is growing, and due to this, the field of renewable and especially the field of solar, both PV and thermal, are growing day by day, and it has the clear cut and green future for this energy. But again, in this renewable, especially in solar photovoltaic, uh, there is some challenge. Here, one of the case study of the California is presented. Basically, this pattern of the generation of the solar photovoltaic and the consumption of the end user is depicted by one of the graph, and this graph is known as the duck curve. Technically, this duck curve shows the net demand curve. See, in most of the country, throughout the night hours time, uh, there is less demand of the electricity consumption at the end user. So government try to reduce the generation from the existing power plants uh, during the night hours. But as the sun rises, the consumption of electricity demand again rises with the sunrise, and government has to uh, push for the solar PV generation into the grid. But again, see one of the scenario at the mid noon, the requirement of the electricity is much lower, and the generation from the solar PV is higher. So that conflicts demand and supply rule. But at the evening point of view, at the time of evening, the generation from the solar decays. At the same time, the use of the electricity is higher. So this is the challenge for the almost entire world. But for India, this is not the case. For India, duck curve is not the challenging, but for India, the camel is challenging. Now, so what is the camel? See, you can observe from this data the major inference that comes out of this peculiarity is the significant afternoon load in India. Uh, if we compare the electricity consumption details of the India with respect to, or we can compare simply the consumption pattern of the India and other countries. Then for the India, in afternoon time, uh, India has the much requirement of the electricity consumption. So, uh, considering all this demand and supply with respect to solar generation, especially, uh, the electricity grid operators has much more challenging because the difference between the morning and evening peak is relatively small in this case and mostly in the range of 10 percentage. But in summer months, there is a constant afternoon peak, which may sometimes exceed the evening peak. For example, we can take the case of the month of the May. And during the winter season, that is so-called lean demand period, during the day does not exist and the cow remains comparatively flatter. So this pattern is something different from the duck cow. And the difference between the maximum and the minimum of the cow remains low in the summer, and usually it is less than the 25,000 megawatt, but again increases in the winter to about the 45,000 megawatt. So again, the major inference that comes out of this peculiarity is the significant afternoon load in the India. So what is the solution for this challenge? That means the camel challenge for the India. So the first of all, first solution is the energy storage and load balancing requirement of the India is comparatively lesser as the cow has the lower peaks. However, with rapidly increasing the solar power, the demand for the energy storage shall increase swiftly along with the requirements of policy interventions also. So in this case, for India, policy is also the key parameter. Second thing is the capacity utilization of storage stations. That shall be the better as two significant peaks of the relatively similar magnitude will be served. And the third solution is the coupling of battery storage methods with the solar that will face a challenge as additional power available during the charging time. That means dead time will be lower as compared to a general dark curve scenario. And last one is the while increasing the solar generation, the time of dead tariff, that mechanism can act as a significant measure for the flattening of this Indian load curve. So shifting of some of the evening load to the daytime may cause the substantial flattening of the curve. So these are the measure for solutions for this camel curve for the Indian solar generation and the demand supply scenario. Now let us come to one of the point to necessary share will all of you. Now this renewable, or we can say solar, is one of the freedom movement. Now from which freedom? Freedom of the power, that is, so solar is again the power of freedom. At Indian British rule in the India, one of the common men known as Mahatma Gandhi has started the movement for the freedom against the ruling democracy, and they want to take the freedom of the living. And due to that, the India completely has got independence from the British. At that time, Mahatma Gandhi ji has completely started the campaign to join the people in this mission for the freedom uh, by some rule change and by education literacy. Same way, currently in India, one of the common men, Professor Dr. Chetan Singh Solanki, he is the well-known professor of the IIT Mumbai, known as the Solar Gandhi in India, has started the one of the movement for the climate change, especially to promote the solar energy in complete world for the climate change. And they has established Energy Swaraj Yatra, and he is currently on the yatra since last 2 years that will end in 2030. And again, Professor Chetan Singh Solanki uh, doing very good activity regarding the energy literacy to the each and every Indian regarding the awareness of climate change, and to aware the solar energy generation in India, so that in coming future India becomes the energy independent by installing 100% capacity of the renewable energy, and the to fulfill uh, uh, the prime minister's vision of 2030 to reduce the carbon footprint in all over the globe, and to put one of the let's say sandesha in the world uh, from the India. And this will be large public movement. So I think solar is not just energy or not a power, but it is the power of freedom for a common man. And we Indian uh, provide this statement to the world to become energy sustained. So thank you all.
Thank you, Bhavin. Again, due to technical glitches, we did miss the intro for the Bhavin. So I would like to reintroduce Bhavin. Bhavin is the managing director of KV Energy Revenue LLP and the CEO of Energy Management Cell at Darshan University. Bhavin is also an active member of multiple associations and recipient of the Top 100 International Distinguished Educator Award in 2020. Thank you, Bhavin.
Thank you, sir.
Coming back to our next speaker for the webinar, Dr. Vinod Tiwari. As UAE's leading entrepreneurship consultant and engineering director and innovative solar energy expert awardee and best-selling author, Dr. Vinod Tibari has been leading UAE's market for last 1 decade as the director of renewable power solution. For his exemplary contribution in the field of off-grid solar power system in the UAE, Dr. Vinod was awarded as the most innovative solar energy expert of the year award in 2019. Welcome to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Himanshu, for a nice introduction of mine. So would you want me to present the slide, or you would be?
Yeah, please go ahead, please.
Okay, so before I start, I would like to say thank you to, in fact, I would appreciate Bhavin's message, the way he presented. It was amazing. So great nuggets, Bhavin, and it was amazing. I would say that we have learned a lot, means I have learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you very much. So because I am having a very, very short of time, Himanshu and Achal has given a very short of time, and Ingot is waiting for the next to be the next speaker. So I would be going little faster, and I will try to be finishing within the time. And in case not, please Achal or Himanshu, let me just know that if I'm running fast, or if there are any question or answers, we can talk about it later. So my topic, what I'm going to talk about is about the off-grid and on-grid difference, but ultimately I want to give some nuggets, give some ideas for the rooftop solar. Okay, so these are the 5 topics I would be talking. So you're going to understand that why it is must to go green and go solar. What is the major difference between on-grid and off-grid solar? Third, I would let you know about what all things are required to install the rooftop solar. Okay, and third, next thing is that how you can harvest maximum solar output from your solar plant. And last but not the least, I'll tell you about a case study of my own. So these are the 5 topics I'm going to cover. And before I start, I would like to run this short video. Hope audio is there. So, namaste and welcome to everyone for this particular session. I am going to cover these following topics which I talked about. First topic, as I told, that why you must go green. Now, this you have heard the message of our beloved Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. He is saying that he has made a target of 450 gigawatt by 2030. And before that, let me tell you that there was a initial target of 100 gigawatt, which was achieved ahead of time. okay, which was achieved ahead of time. So we believe that by 2030, even before that, we will achieve this 450 gigawatt, which is a big target. And we are going to create a big impact into the environmental global position, right? We are the company who is working with the Paris Agreement. So maybe our speaker can understand that we are supporting your agreement. Now, there are so many benefits. I would be covering few of them. Number one is the renewable energy. Of course, everybody knows that this is a renewable energy. Why? Because this energy is truly renewable, because there is an infinite source of the sun is available. Okay, now here I want to ask a question to all the audience, and if you know the answer, please give me your answer in the chat window, or else I will answer your question at the last. So question is that, can you tell me that how much sunlight is required to make the power for the whole earth for 24 years? I repeat the question. How much sun power is required to power the whole earth for 24 years? Let me know if you know the answer. Now, second best reason to go solar is we are not going to harm the environment. You know, there are so many health challenges are coming, and ultimately we are going to suffer. So with this renewable, there is a no CO2 emissions. It is a eco-friendly. There is a low maintenance. I should say not low, rather there is no maintenance. I will tell you in the case study. And finally, it is a cost effective. It is very, very cost effective. I'll tell you how it is very cost effective. So go clean, go green, and go solar. Now, major people don't understand that what is on grid and what is off grid. So let me tell you on grid and off grid difference. See, the first picture you will see, it is called as, it is shown on grid solar power system. So in this, I will tell you the first thing you can see, the sun radiation, solar radiations are coming onto the PV module, and after that down, you are seeing on-grid inverter. This is the inverter which is there in on-grid power, and of course in the off-grid power as well. What is the meaning of inverter? What it is doing? Because the power which we are capturing from the sunlight, from the solar, it is actually in a DC voltage. So that DC voltage has to be converted into AC. So inverter is nothing but converting DC voltage to AC voltage, and directly that AC voltage we can take the output and we can use our appliances. So this is called on grid. And very important thing, you can see that our load is also connected to the utility grid, your electricity board. So here in this on grid power, it is grid with on, means grid is available. So in this, it is very simple, only panel and inverter, only two components. Let's go to the off grid. Off grid is where you have the PV module, same. Now you have the charge controller, which is different. Why charge controller? Because in this off grid, you don't have the grid. You can see there is no grid, there is no power supply, there is no electricity board, and all the extra power what you're generating, or you need extra power from in the sunlight or in the rainy day, that time you are excuse me, that time you're storing that power into the battery bank, and you're taking that power from the battery bank. So to manage that battery bank, there is a charge controller. So basically the batteries should not get overcharged, or it should get optimum charge. So for that reason, there is a charge controller. And last, there is an inverter. So in this both pictures, you can see that on grid is with grid and off grid is without grid. Let's move to the next. Let me make you more understandable that what exactly is on grid. Now, I'm going to tell you a few scenarios. Number one scenario is that where you are having a excessive solar energy from the grid. Okay. Now, to make it very easy understand, if you are making per day 5 units of energy, okay, 5 units of energy you're making from the solar, and in your home you need only 2 units, you want to consume only 2 units, you're not running any appliances, what you will do? So extra energy you're feeding back to the grid. So in this first case, the extra energy is going to the grid. In the second scenario, in the second case, you will see you are using solar plus electrical grid, means your appliances, you're using more appliances, you're using geyser, you're using air conditioning, you're using fridge, you're using refrigerator, you're using oven, everything you're using, and your sun is making a power of only 5 units, but you need 7 units. So in this case, you're taking extra power from the grid and from the solar, both cases. Now, case number 3, when there is a dark night, when there is a moon, when there is no sun. So in this time, at this moment, you are taking and consuming the power from the grid and not from the solar, because there is no sunlight. So in these 3 scenarios, you can understand that there is no need of battery bank, and you are completely independent, and you are taking the power from the grid. Now, in this case, you understand that we don't need the battery power. Second scenario, which is off-grid. What exactly is off-grid principle? Off-grid means you're making the power from your solar rays from the panel, and then that extra power what you're making is stored in the battery bank. Okay, I'm making 5 units or 7 units or 10 units or 20 units per day, and that all units are consumed, maybe 3, 4, 5 units, and the remaining one is getting stored in the battery. And in the night time, I'm taking all that power from the battery. So next day, again, that battery will get charged and battery will be stored in the battery bank. So this is something for the off-grid. Now, what do you need actually to install rooftop solar? In India, I'm really, telling so many of friends of mine and all that why don't you install the rooftop tower? And they have so many questions. I think more than the amount required, they are having the questions. They are having million questions, and rather million rupees are not required. But let me tell you, there are major 3 things required. Number 1 is you should have a long-term mindset. No, don't think the short term, because ultimately your electricity board may be giving you 4,000, 5,000 rupees bill, but ultimately your solar is much cheaper than the electricity board bill. I'll tell you how in the next slide. Second thing, you need a space. Of course, where you will install your solar panels. So you need a space to install the solar panels. Now people ask how much space is required. So as a thumb rule, you need 100 square feet for 1 kilowatt. So if you want to install 5 kilowatt, 500 square feet. If you want 3 kilowatt, 300 square foot area is required. Third important thing is that this one-time investment is really payback period is only 2 years. Within 2 years, you can complete money, and after that 20 years, it would be free of cost electricity to you. So the return of investment is 6%. Now, talking little technical, that what all major components are required. Definitely solar module, you know that we need a good solar module to put it on the solar panel. Second, you need the which I told you, it is regulating and managing the power which is going to the battery bank. Third, you need a energy storage device, which is battery. And fourth, you need inverter. Now, in the on-grid power, you don't need item number 2 and item number 3. You need only item number 1 and item number 4, first and last. That's all. So this actually is the items required. Now, next point: how to harvest maximum. What is the possibility? Now, people make silly mistakes, and they
Himanshu, you're on mute.
I think there is some difficulty, and due to which Vinod has.
It's a shame. It was fascinating.
I think we have lost Himanshu too.
Oh, pity.
worked out of French energy market. She is working across 4 countries, private companies and public institutions. Ingrid helps German and American companies in the green energy space to set up in France through clear, engaging communication that touches policymakers, decision makers, and other stakeholders. Welcome to you, Ingrid.
Thank you very much, Himanshu. What a great introduction. Thank you. Okay, I do hope we can have the rest of the previous contribution because it was starting to get really fascinating. So I hope it comes back. So thank you. Yes, Himanshu?
Yeah, please go ahead. I was saying thank you.
Okay. So we're diving into the French market. But before we do that, we have to start with the obvious. First, we have, wait, here it is. Okay, we have around 15 minutes together, if I'm right. We're going to start with the targets and where we stand in these targets. Then we're going to take a deep dive into the French market. And then I'm going to give you 3 very practical tips on how to crack the French market, if you're interested. So, first of all, obvious point, France is part of the European Union, a member state. So the European Union has specific targets and we have to contribute to those targets. The first one is Europe has pledged to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And to do that, it has set a very ambitious target of more than 40% of our energy we consume must come from renewables. The good news is, with 7 years to go, we have already achieved 90% of this target. So it's looking good. Now, what about solar power specifically? The target for the European Union is 600 gigawatts of installed capacity with the same deadline. That's a little more difficult because right now we don't even have a third of that. But that's good news for us because this is a big growth potential. So now how does this look like in France specifically? Well, the renewable target is at around 1/3 of all our consumption in energy coming from renewables. We stand right now at a little less than 24%. So once again, growing potential. Sun energy, solar power, we should have a very, very short-term target of 20 gigawatt installed capacity by December this year. Well, we are now by a little less than 18 gigawatt. So this is a run, guys, and you're the runners. We have to make it. We have a long-term target of 100 gigawatts, which is an enormous target for France, right? It's a small country compared to India, compared to the whole of European Union. So 100 gigawatt is an enormous target. But we can make it if you play with us. So as you can see, the targets are ambitious. The global picture looks quite good, but we still have some challenges to overcome and bottlenecks to deal with. And why and how can we overcome them? This is the main topic today, the French market. We have a specific way of acting in France, right? Maybe you know that French people love to dig deeper everything, they question everything. We love food a lot, and we really love a good argument. So these are the 3 points that make our culture and also the 3 points that make our problems. The first one, we dig deeper, make our regulatory landscape very complex because we question everything. We go in depth into every case. And so it takes an awfully long time to get an authorization on the French market. The second issue is we love food. So we're not ready to give up valuable farmland for non-edible solar panels. So it's quite difficult to find suitable construction sites in France. We'll get to that later, don't worry. And of course, our country is quite competitive. We have a little less than 4 million businesses in France. So finding a place there, differentiating yourself is quite difficult. It's not impossible. Don't worry, we'll get to that. But it's highly competitive. And also you have to face our giants like EDF and Siemens and Engie, who are with their very beloved nuclear plants, over 60 gigawatts installed capacity. So coming up against them is quite hard. So good news, among all those problems, we have now the French government working on those issues. It has recognized them all and has come up with a plan for you to settle in France successfully. And this plan is our new plan for energy, packed with very interesting measures, lots of them, but unfortunately we have a very short time together. So I'll focus on the three most important measures. The first one is speed up things. We are going to streamline the whole authorization process. One example, you can now install solar panel on rooftops, on existing rooftops, mind you, within just a quarter, which is exactly the time you need to train for a 5K marathon, by the way. So you can make good use of that weight. And if your project is less than 50 kilowatts, you could even have just 1 month's cap. So it can be very quick. 1 month, by the way, just the time you need to get used to the French routine of the morning café and croissant. So you can get used to our culture quite quickly. The second interesting measure to you is the solar registry. It's a very efficient way to quickly identify the best suitable locations to install solar panel in France. This is already online, free to use, and in English. Here's the link. Enjoy. And the last one is the government has now voted new funding and tax benefits for solar power specifically. So very useful. I'm not going into the details here. There's too much to say, but no, there are new fundings to be had. And France is now also looking to diversify its renewable energy sources, not just solar, but also a lot of wind, high in trend right now, and hydraulic and thermic power. So you could also team up with those other renewable sources. Like, for example, why not use them as ladders to get up to the sun and installing solar panels on hydraulic dams high in the mountains? And that leads us to our main tips on how to crack the French market, if you're interested. So the first one is probably very obvious, but I have to talk about it because I've seen so many companies making their content French, as in translating the content, instead of just making it Frenchy, as in understanding the new audience and adjusting to this specific market. So you really have to understand people in France love a good argument. That's crucial. They love argumenting. So give them a good reason to engage with you. Don't just translate your content, but go there and get their attention, grab their attention. It's not just translation. Very important. The second tip is about making good use of those government measures. You could pre-pack things so that your customer feel cared for and reassured. If you're working B2C with direct customers, you can simply come there and sell them not your product or service, but you can sell them happiness. As Bhavin said before, solar power is the power of freedom. This is it. This is what you're selling them. You're not selling solar panel. You're selling freedom. You're selling happiness. You give them an opportunity to protect the planet and make savings on their monthly bills, by the way. So that's quite good. And you can save them the fuss of looking for funding and tax benefits and having that stress out of, oh my gosh, how expensive that is, and I have no time for that and no energy for that. So make pre-packed packages of everything. They just have to sign the contract and you take care of everything else. Make it easy for them. And by making it easy, I have also 4 very important tips for people who work with businesses, because this is my specialty. I could talk about that for hours. So if you're not working with consumers, but B2B, I'll start with the first one, team up. We talked before about our giants like EDF and Engie and Siemens. They could be your competitors, but they could also be your sponsors. And that would be great. They have sponsorship programs to help you enter and settle in the French market and then thrive in exchange, for example, for your knowledge or for some of the energy you produce, depending on the programs. So look them up, Engie, EDF, Siemens, and see what they can offer you if that fits your needs. The second tip is make use of those renewable source diversification strategy right now. Team up with wind power, for example. It's quite difficult to find construction sites in France. So use an existing wind park and install your solar panels in this park on the ground, while the wind turbine are using the air. Or install your solar panels on existing buildings, on dams, on commercial buildings. Use existing surfaces. You can also team up even with farmland, with farming land. You can use your solar panels to shield crops from the harshest rays of sun and from rains, for example. So it could be an actually very efficient partnership. What you could also do is make use of the way authorization processes in France are made. 21% of all criteria are on environment. So boost your environment strategy. For example, you can be using a special coating for your solar for your supporting parts of your solar panel, a special coating that is not harming insects, for example. You could have a zero residue policy with a take-back strategy and recycling loop, that kind of things. You could team up with natural reserves, power up their installation in exchange for some place and surface and land to install your panels. You could put your panels up on churches, for example, high in trend right now. So there are lots of options to show the French state that you are indeed very eco-friendly. And the last one, not surprisingly, be creative. Look at what your customers need and answer these needs. Example, if you're teaming up with a wind park, you could use your drones that are probably going to clean up your solar panels to also provide a surveillance service for these wind turbines. That would be something interesting. Or you could team up your solar panels with an emergency mobile substation, for example, that would store the excess power and then bring that power anywhere in the natural reserve where it's needed without harming the environment. So that would be another way of being eco-friendly, diversifying your sources, and being creative, for example. So I could talk about that for hours, and sorry, I'm going to stop right now here. But the key takeaway is it's easy to find ways to settle in France, to offer services, and to convince the French state and other businesses that you are exactly the right partner for them. Now, you can also, last tip, think ahead, because as Vinod said, you need a mindset of long term. You need to think ahead. The European Union has just voted decrees that are going to come into France within the next 2 to 5 years. So if you're ready for them, you'll be one of the first people they will turn to buy your services. The first one is rooftops, not surprisingly. So there will be a phased-in obligation to mandatorily, you will have to install solar power on roofs, commercial and public buildings by starting 2027. So still a couple of years ahead to think about the strategies and find your audience, but then they will have to do it. So prepare for that. And 2 years later, it will be housing. normal private housing. So a big growth potential again. The second one is the Pact for Skills, which is strategy to harmonize workforce and skills throughout Europe. So this is about having trainings and having the opportunity to learn new skills or in every European country. This is a free program. You can subscribe to this. There is a link here. You can either take part as a counseling member, or you can ask for funding and financial help for trainings in your company. And the last and not least would be the Industry Alliance. This is a committee surveilling the growth of renewables throughout Europe and to identify the most salient problems, issues, bottlenecks, but also the most promising innovations and the resources needed. And they have a quite important budget allocated, and they can use this budget to foster that or that technology. So also available, subscribe and see if they can do something for you. So that's it, you've made it. Thank you for listening to me. Now I'd be very interested about your feedback and questions if you have some.
Thank you, Ingrid, for your kind words and the insights. Again, the presentation was really informative. Before jumping onto the questions, I would like to quickly move to Vinod first because
Yes.
now Vinod has managed to come here. Can you
Yes.
hear us?
Oh.
I think we lost him again.
Yeah, I feel the same. Let's give him a moment.
Yeah, he is.
Hi.
Hi. We were waiting for you to start again where you left.
Thank you very much for waiting. Technology is great. So let me start with starting. Okay, guys. So let me tell you that I was so happy to attend the presentation of Ingrid as well. Initial part I just missed out. I'll just check it out. But till now, till today, I was aware of off-grid and on-grid, and today I am aware of in-grid also. Thank you, Ingrid. So I'm starting from the screen which I missed out. So the major components, again, let's go back to the off-grid and on-grid. So the major components, what do you need for off-grid is 4 components: PV module, solar charge controller, energy storage devices, which means the batteries, and solar inverter. But don't worry, for on-grid, you need item number 1 and item number 4. You need only solar module and inverter. That's all. You need only these 2 things. So this on-grid is a very simple thing which is connected directly or to the grid. Now, next thing I want to tell you about how you can harvest the maximum solar output. Now, how you can harvest, basically the impaneling of the solar panel is very much important, because it has to be placed in such a way that the panels are directly proportional to the sun rays. It should hit on a perpendicular basis. And that sun is not exactly at the top, so the panel should not be laid down like this. The sun is little bit tilted, so your panel should be tilted around 20 degree plus, and it depends on the latitude and longitude of the area on the earth. And in the northern hemisphere, it should be faced towards south, and in the southern hemisphere, it should be faced towards north pole. So this is just a thumb rule. And very important thing is that there should not be shedding at all on the panel, because people say that there is a little shedding only at the small part. But let me tell you, because of the internal circuitry, design, maybe the complete cell or maybe half of the panel will go inactive, and you are not going to get, the complete power. And sometimes the complete panel may go inactive. So be careful about that. Final thing, you have to keep the solar panel completely clean. Like as you all the time cleaning your mobile camera, mobile phone, you're all the time cleaning, keeping it clean. So the same way, the more you get it clean, the more energy output you're going to get. And annually, it would be, around 5 to 10% extra. Now, this is last thing I want to tell you about the case study, which is of my own. And the young gentleman you can see is nobody else but me. I'm cleaning my solar panels. So this is the only maintenance required. Now, this case study is of my home, which is at Ahmedabad, my penthouse, which is on 13th floor. Okay. And I have installed a 3 kilowatt rooftop solar. 3 kilowatt means you can see there are 9 panels. Each panel is of 330 watt. So 3 panels makes 1 kilowatt, 9 panels makes 3 kilowatt. The date I installed was March 2018. And now in the case study, I'm considering the study for 25 years. Okay. Now the interesting figures you will see. The time when I installed this solar panel was in March 2018. And that time my electricity bill averagely was around 4,000 rupees. Okay, sometimes it was high, sometimes it was low, but on an average in a year it was 4,000 rupees. So around 50,000 rupees a year I was paying to the government for electricity. Now, when I invested this money and installed this solar panel with the help of central government subsidy and state government subsidy, my complete cost was 125,000. Means 1,25,000 rupees I had invested, and that was paid off only within 2.5 years. Can you believe? Means 48,000 I did not pay first year, 48,000 I did not pay second year, third year, fourth year. Till today, I haven't paid even 1 rupee to the government of India for electricity. So till today, it is free of cost, and next plus 20 years, it would be free. So if I'm considering my next 25 years of expenses, maybe I have to change inverter, because inverter life is 5 to 6 years. Panel life is 25 years. So if I have to change the inverter 2 times or 3 times, it will be costing not more than 5, 10, 15,000. But still I'm considering 50,000 for my more expenses. And my electricity bill is going on a higher and a higher and higher. And let me just put up figure that only 4% every year there would be an increase. So total cost for 25 years, I would be paying 21 lakh 50,000. And I'm saving that money of 20 lakh rupees in the next 20 years. So do you think it's a great deal? So this is something mindset. I have invested little amount, but in a long run, ultimately I am saving a lot, and I am trying to save the earth also. I'm not polluting the earth. So this is the complete green game. And thank you very much. This is my social media handle. You can get me connected with this LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. It is I am Vinod Tiwari. And right now, I want to answer your question, and the question I have asked earlier. So I will answer that question. I did not forget that one. And meanwhile, I would request all the viewers to give me your feedback. So you can scan this barcode, or you can just type bit.ly/Vinod review. You can put me just a review. I would be so happy to understand and learn from you that what did you like from this complete webinar. Now, I ask you one question, that how much sunlight is required to power the complete earth for 24 years? And you know what is the answer? The answer is it needs only 24 hours of sunlight. Can you believe? Only 24 hours of sunlight is much sufficient to power complete earth for next 24 years. So this is the real big power. Let's try to harvest that power. Let's try to make our earth green. Let's not pollute it. Let's try to put our efforts to make the earth a better place for living for everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you to Saib who are doing a great job. And so my case over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vinod.
Thank you, Himanshu, and thank you, Achal. Over to you.
Thank you, Vinod. Let's move to the questions. We have received a number of questions for each one of you individually as well. Let's first start with Ingrid. Ingrid, can you share some of your experiences in helping companies set up in the green energy sector in France? And what are some key considerations that businesses should keep in mind while entering this market?
Um, my most recent one was with a Japanese company named Nakamoto Forestry. They build wooden panels, wood panels for houses to help insulate the house. It's a very efficient way. It's burned wood, yakisugi. Don't know if you know that, but it's a very interesting method. Anyway, they had the issue that they were already in France, but they noticed that they would not sell much. So they were present in Japan, they were also in Germany, and they are in the US. And it's working very well in all those countries. But in France, they just had not enough orders. So they came to me and asked me to check out what was happening. And the key issue was what I said before. They had made everything French, but not Frenchy. So it was all accessible in French, but the actual way of touching, of reaching out to the audience, of captivating their clients, it didn't work because they were talking about them. They were talking about the general ideal of protecting the planet. And people are just fed up with that. This is stupid to say, but they hear that every day so much. It just doesn't click anymore. So they needed another approach, another way of talking to them. And when we changed that, it changed also the rebound rate on their website and also the number of orders they got. It's been just over 2 months, and we are over 24% rebound rates right now, starting from 5%. No, other way. We had 24% rebound rate, and now just 5%. So it's been working much better. Another company I have been working for is Solar GmbH. It's a German company. They were selling just in Germany, and they had a first client in France and didn't know how to start. And their first issue was, what is the legal status I must choose, depending on the funding, depending on the taxes I have to pay, and how does it work, the whole thing. So we had a 3-month study of their activity, the audience, the objective, the goals, generally speaking, with my partners. And finally, we found the right legal status for them. And now they are big in France. It's been 6 months, and they are already working with big partners here. So these are my 2 latest important experiences.
Okay, great. Now, moving on to Bhavin, as the recipient of the Top 100 International Distinguished Educators Award 2020, what do you believe is the most important lesson or insight that those working in the energy sector need to understand about the future of the solar power? Bhavin, we cannot hear you.
I can hear you. Now you can ask me.
Okay. Uh, Again, what do you believe is the most important lesson or insight that people who are working in the energy sector need to understand about the future of solar power?
See, in all form of the energy, uh, solar power or solar energy is the one of the most efficient as well as one of the most easy to implement in a uh, in a wide area. So also with respect to the prices, um, solar power is comparatively much cheaper than the other renewables. And uh, to learn about the solar energy is much more easy as compared to uh, other technologies also. And if we heard about the solar energy, then it is not limited to only solar photovoltaic. In all over the world, most countries currently installed and focused on solar PV till date, but there are many others form of the solar energy and technologies yet to be installed and come in picture worldwide. Currently, uh, there is a scenario in a few of the European countries, USA and Turkey, that hybrid solar photovoltaic thermal technology is commercializing. But in India, we are comparatively less focused on other technologies apart from the solar photovoltaic. So for the India, there is a huge scope of the different solar technologies along with the solar photovoltaic also. So we must have to focus on other solar technologies.
Okay. Um, Moving on to Vinod. Vinod, as the entrepreneurship consultant and solar energy expert, how do you see the landscape of solar power changing in the Middle East over the next decade? And what kind of challenges and opportunity do you foresee in the Middle East region?
Well, thank you for asking such a nice question. And let me tell you that if I talk about the, around 200 plus countries, India, UAE, China, and Egypt, these are the few names who are basically, putting their forecast and, projections for the next decade. And they are leading the world in a better way for the solar power. Now, if I talk about the power plant, the world's biggest power plant, it is in India. If I talk about the second world's biggest power plant, maybe it's in China, but India. And in the row, the sixth number.
I think we are facing technical issues today a lot.
Actually, uh, no problem. I think let's move to another question and we'll wait again for the Vinod to join. Okay, so I went through all these speeches and again what Ingrid had to say, what Vinod had to say, and what Bhavin had to say. So everyone is stressing on the growth and the adoption of the solar power, but as the policy makers and as the regulators, how can policy makers and regulators support the growth and adoption of solar power? What are your views on that, Ingrid?
My view on that. Um, there has been lots of studies and surveys on exactly that issue in France and especially in Europe, everywhere. The answers, generally speaking, are it's about finances. The upfront investment of installing solar panels for consumers, for private consumers, is mostly too high, and it's a real barrier. So the issue was last year, from last year's surveys, was we need more incentives and tax benefits for those who go that step of installing solar panels. And this is exactly the kind of issue that have been solved through the newest plan for energy that is being voted right now. So it's looking good, that first issue. The second issue is there are lots of surfaces that are not used that we should and could use for solar panels. Mostly this is about buildings, very often public or commercial buildings, which are not used. This is also being solved because there is this phased in obligation coming on. So what regulators and decision makers could do now, even more than that, would be to make the structures that are being built right now and that are going to be built later on should pre-plan for these installations so that the structures would be solid enough, robust enough to support those panels. This is now one of the most salient issues in new constructions. I think this is the next point to be addressed.
Okay. Bhavin, what is your view on the same in reference to the Indian market? How come policymakers and regulators support it?
Let's speaking frankly, uh, till date, India has achieved much more installations, and that is only due to the government policies and incentives and a few tax benefits. If the policies and incentives were not this much, then as per the human psychology about the initial cost of the solar technology before 7 8 years, then this will be not the actual installation results. So this is only the result of policies. Again, and just during the COVID time, uh, the Ministry of Power has declined some projects and cancelled the policy regarding small cell development solar power plants. And due to that, especially almost especially our Gujarat state in India has lost many projects, and due to that, I think we lost many revenues also. Almost 8,000 project applications were there for the small scale solar development projects, and from which more than 5,500 projects were cancelled due to these policy changes. So, for any country or region, implementation of new technology for the carbon footprint is mostly not only depends on the technology, but it mostly depends on the government policies as well as the awareness of a particular technology for a common man at the end of the society. These both things, awareness as well as the policy, both measure regulating key parameters for resolving any problems of the society.
Okay. Coming back to you, Vinod. Again, the discussion that we were having right now was about how can policymakers and regulators better support the growth and adoption of solar power. Would you like to add something to that?
Well, yes. Before that, I would like to complete the answer which you asked me earlier. That if I talk about the growth, am I audible still?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. So the screen is okay. It's heavy raining over here, so maybe because of that, some challenges. Now, let me tell you that India, being a leader in the solar power across the globe, the UAE is also not far behind. Suppose the biggest and the largest solar park in the world is 2.2 gigawatt, which is in India. So the next UAE is placed at that number 6, who is having around 1.3 gigawatt park in UAE. So UAE, despite being a very small country, but they have they have a big leadership, and they are very open-minded, and they are very much aggressive in the growth. So they are also supporting to this particular noble cause of environment friendly going. Second thing, I would to tell you that they have made a complete city. They invested around a couple of billions dollars over there, and they have made a Masdar city. Maybe if anybody have you heard about it, that complete city is purely having no carbon footprint, and in that particular city, they have made the second biggest solar park. So to answering your first question, UAE is having a great leadership, and they're looking for the partnership and collaborations and joint ventures even with India ministry. They are working, supporting, and they're ready to invest even in India for solar growth. Thank you.
Another question being, so again, we agree with the benefits of the solar power and how it contributes to the energy generation. But what role do you see for artificial intelligence and machine learning in optimizing the performance and efficiency of solar power systems? I'll go with the
So may I?
first. Yeah, please.
Wonderful. So let me tell you that that particular era has moved out, the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and these now the beautiful terms, which is AI, blockchain technology, and the computer machine learning. So these are really disrupting the complete market. And as of now, what you're saying is that it's completely purely without having any kind of human error. These technologies are giving the great kind of results. Let me tell you, it's unimaginable. Like the way the artificial intelligence is, being captured in this market, and they are going into the machine learning. Like if I talk about the solar car, the driverless car or the solar powered car. So they are in UAE. They already made up a car, and it's completely ready for last maybe 4 or 5 years. But they are not getting certain regulations. Otherwise, they are ready to launch that driverless solar car. And that solar car, driverless car, is the best of the best example of AI and machine learning. They have made them learn each and everything, even as what maybe we are not aware. Thank you.
Okay. Moving to our other speakers, what do you think, Ingrid, about the same?
It's absolutely not my field of expertise, right? Because I'm really French market and marketing, but AI is obviously taking over everything, every marketplace, and we all have to adjust to it, or we are going to lose our jobs everywhere. So AI can be a threat, but in my view, personally, not as an expert, but as a user, I feel that AI, generally speaking, is an amazing tool that can be incredibly useful, but a tool is never as good as the one holding it. So I think we should know our value, and it's not going to replace human, but it's going to make everything much more efficient, in my view. And I feel, especially with renewables, it can really help balance the grid, for example, much quicker than we humans could do. Well, grid inverters, Vinod, for example, are very efficient, but grid inverters with AI, imagine the capabilities. It would be incredible. Well, this is one way of using it in that industry. Thank you.
Coming to you, Bhavin, what do you think about the use of the AI and machine learning for improving the efficiency and outcome?
In coming days, AI will be very useful in terms of data analytics of the, especially we talk about the solar power plants, because after installation of any system, if you want to verify the running efficiency and the running problems associated with the installed system, we must take the appropriate amount of data. And after collecting those data, the proper analysis of those data are necessary. And if we could harness the much amount of data, then for any human, it is take much time. But in coming futures, based on AI algorithms, AI will definitely analyze those data in short time as well as with some precision accuracy, and that will much useful to find out the exact problems in the system. Uh, for taking one example, that after installation of the solar plants, almost after 5 years, solar panels got some hotspots due to various reasons and various parameters. So if that we cannot see as a naked eye. For that, thermal images, that means thermograph recorders are necessary nowadays. So if we could take the thermal image of that particular damaged panels, then we could analyze the how much generation or revenue we lost due to that problem. But again, only to take the thermal image is not just the 100% part. After taking the thermal images, the proper analysis with accuracy of that data are much necessary. And obviously, AI can much do better as compared to humans. So in coming futures, from my point of view, AI will helpful in data analytics and preventive maintenance also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have another, which is the last question also. It's a two-part question. So first part being is ki how solar power can be integrated into existing energy system. How can we accommodate it if there is an old energy system in place? And second one being that what are the latest technological advancement in the space, in the solar energy and market space? I'll go to Vinod first. You.
Yeah, so thank you, Himanshu, for a really good question, because existing solar parks across the globe, they have been installed like couple of or maybe 5 years or 7 years before, and as of now, the new technology or like hybrid, possibilities are there. So how it is not so, I should say it is not impossible, but it would be difficult to, make it hybrid, because the complete the receivers or the panels or like whatever system has been made would not have any issues or any problem. Only the electronic circuitry which is there, which is actually converting that particular energy into the and transmitting that energy, so that would need an upgradation or changes. So like I suppose, if in a simple way, let me tell you that right now we are coming up with a big integrated, or I should say hybrid power solar park in India, which is coming near to Mr. Bhavin's place, which is in Kutch, Gujarat, and that the area of that particular solar hybrid park is exactly the area of a country of Singapore. Means how big is the Singapore? Same size of that area the hybrid is coming. So there we are coming with the solar panels and wind power. So if I'm trying to add wind power or other sources of energy to the existing, power plant, it would be difficult. But yes, nowadays only little upgradation would be required. Maybe investment of little into the electronic circuitry to make it possible. Thank you.
Yeah. Coming back to you, Ingrid, what do you think? How can solar power be integrated into existing energy systems?
Well, again, I'm not an engineer. It's not exactly my field of expertise. But talking to engineers, I feel that solar energy can be used in every housing, every building, everywhere along the way. It should be shown to people how they can use them, and it should be obligatory, mandatory to have some solar power as at least as backup power. For example, for crucial places like hospitals or police or fireman stations, they need those options to have their special power just for them, independent from the grid, and having the option to store this power in EMS, for example, these substations, these mobile substations, to use them as needed, where needed. I feel this is really one point that should be highlighted. And the second point I feel is coming up. Lots of people now in that space are talking about orbital solar panels to compensate for that intermittency issue, because high up, of course, there are no clouds, so the sun is always there. Now the issue, the key problem, that I'm not an engineer, is how to bring that power back down to the earth. But let's see, maybe the AI will find something about that.
Coming back to you, Bhavin, what do you think about it?
See, one of the fundamental limitation of electrical network in electricity is the storage of the electricity. That is the, I think, level one challenge in electrical engineering till date. It starts from the Edison, Thomas Alva Edison. So, due to this limitation, it is necessary to utilize the most part of the solar generation in daytime itself. But if it anyhow it could not be possible, then we must focus on to research and development of the battery energy storage system. So by that, how we could store some part of the solar photovoltaic energy during the daytime, and later on during the night time we can use that energy. This is one of the part. Second thing, nowadays till date, solar power plants has installed almost multi-crystalline solar panels, and nowadays manufacturer till date also manufactured this multi-crystalline panels. But since the last 3-4 years, the monocrystalline and thin film panels also in the picture, and we all observed that in the world everyday technology upgraded. So that is also one of the challenge for the solar module manufacturers to upgrade and modify their current manufacturing lines from multicrystalline to monocrystalline, as well as the thin film. In a few countries, they are trying to use some foldable solar panels, maybe thin film or organic panels. So technology upgradation in solar field in coming years, that is second level challenges in this field also. But not only use of solar as a renewable, we have to integrate wind, biomass, as well as electricity from the solar thermal generation also. So if we could integrate all these things and synchronizes with our demand requirements, then we could achieve our targets. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavin.
Himanshu, if I may, I would like to add something. This is much more about the market of solar energy. I feel this is really something that could help right now rebalance the social power throughout the world. There are some countries, especially in Africa right now, who can use and leverage that power to gain more weight on the global market. And that would be a great way to rebalance everything. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Okay. So, Bhavin, do you have any last words for that as we are moving towards the end of the webinar?
I want to share only one word. Thank you to TechSci Research to share the expert views.
Okay. Coming back to you, Vinod, what are your views on the same?
So, well, I would say that guys, whomsoever are listening and whomsoever are not listening, please understand, save the earth for the people who are coming to you, the next generation. Don't try to mingle up too much with your own kind of a greed or materialistic things, you know. So don't try to, just try to, don't try to use all the resources. Just try to add on some values. And solar is one of the way where you as an individual can contribute to the global earth, global warming. So please be wise and use solar. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much to each one of you. Coming back to our attendees. So, guys, as we come to the end of the webinar, I would like to thank our speakers again for their time and expertise. I hope that this webinar shed important lights, has given you fresh perspectives on the solar power. We encourage our attendees and our speakers to stay connected with us for more updates and resources on the topic, and so that we can make this interaction more lively in the coming sessions and can have more updates about the same. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Namaskar.